Once upon a time, it was considered normal and natural for children to go hunting with their parents. That's how they learned. They learned how to survive. They learned how to track the animal. They learned how their parents brought food home. And it was a process that brought them in touch with nature and kind of gave them a sense of their place in the world. They also learned life lessons, and they learned tips for survival so that they could survive and teach their children. In the process, they developed an appreciation for nature, animals' place in nature, as well as their own place in nature. Today, however, our young people are sort of disassociated from nature because of the distractions provided by the digital universe we live in. And part of the problem that keeps them away from nature is the urban sprawl that we deal with. In a lot of places, it's difficult to walk outside and be in the woods. The other problem is that in America we have what's typically known as a busy lifestyle, where we're constantly on the go, and it's hard to dedicate time to going out into the wild. But I believe that if as parents we take a step back, dedicate time to taking our children into the outdoors and teaching them how to hunt, we can give them tools that will not only give them the ability to feed their families, but make them better citizens. So the first step is removing the digital distractions. And as parents, we all know that in America, most kids today are in front of some sort of video device the majority of their day. As a matter of fact, studies have shown that most children in America watch an average of 3 to 4 hours of television per day, every day. And there's two problems with this. One, especially when you're talking about smaller children, is the potential to be exposed to excessive violence and or what I call unrealistic life. I mean, you know, cartoons, rabbit gets shot, he jumps up, he's fine, things of that nature. The other problem is when they're watching TV, just as when we watch TV, they tune out the world around them. So they're removing themselves from their environment to focus on what's on the screen. So let's remove the digital distractions. How do we do that? It's really easy. Get up, take your child, go outside. Granted, not every place has woods, but there's always a creek or a beach or a canyon or a hill or a lake where you can go out to see nature. And there's several benefits to this. The first and probably most important is simply quality time spent with your child outdoors. You're getting exercise, they're getting exercise, fresh air. And also, especially again with smaller children, is it's an opportunity for them to see nature in nature rather than on TV or on a computer screen. And it gives them a chance to see how the animals interact in their environment and to feel that sense of wonder that we all felt the first time we saw a deer on the side of the road or a raccoon in a tree. So we've got the kids off the couch. What other benefits are there, or what else can we do, what else can we teach them? Well, the quality time with the children outdoors is a great time to teach them about the aspects of hunting that have to take place prior to the actual taking of the animal, all the preparatory phases. So use the outdoors as your classroom. For example, I've got some experience hunting deer. So when I took my son out, we went out to the woods and I explained to him how this is the deer's habitat. They use forage from these types of trees. They look for this type of bedding to sleep in. This is how they cross streams, and basically the habits of the animal in its habitat. Once you understand how the animal moves in its habitat, you can teach your child how to locate that animal and how to track it so you can determine where it is bedding down, where it is feeding, where it is moving. And that gives them the skills that they need for the third step, which is known as scouting the area you're going to hunt. You have to be able to find out where the animal is going to be and how you can find him. Another way to involve your child in hunting is to involve them in the planning that takes place. Explain to them, again, when you're talking about younger children, explain to them about a hunting season. For example, deer season in North Carolina started in August. So if my son was young, I would give him a calendar and say, okay, find me August 18th, that's opening day. And have them mark it out on the calendar. The other thing you can do is when you're planning your hunt is teach your child about planning and making a gear list. Do they need sunscreen? Do you need bug spray? Do you need deer scent? Do you need new ammunition, new arrowheads, whatever the gear is that you need? And every child reaches this next stage at a different point. It just depends on the child. But when your child's comfortable with the concept of hunting, they're comfortable with the idea of it, it's time to take them on the next step, which is actually on the hunt. And the taking of an animal is another opportunity to teach life lessons, ethics, and morals. For life lessons, Obviously, when you're taking an animal, the life is ending, and it's a time to teach your child about the importance of life and death in the natural world. To talk to them about the relationship between predator and prey, and the fact that death occurs daily in the wild, and it's just a part of life. It's not a tragedy. It may be sad, but it's not a tragedy. And in that process, they will develop a respect for the animal's ability to survive in the wild, in that environment, and amongst the predators that it has to deal with. That developing an understanding of the environment will instill in that child, as they grow older, a desire to protect that habitat so that the animal has a home. I mean, we all know how kids are. You know, they want the bunny to have a home, and they want the ducky to have a home. As they get older, it becomes more mature, but they understand that the deer needs its habitat, and the rabbit needs its habitat, and the duck needs its habitat. And that will, down the road, help them to realize that it's important to protect the environment so that not only can they hunt in the future, but their children will have the ability to hunt as well. And as a matter of fact, in America, some of the most effective conservation efforts were founded by hunters and are still today managed by hunters. So is there anything else to learn? I mean, that's some pretty important stuff, but what else can we talk about? Well, when you're talking about the actual taking of the animal, it's an opportunity to teach ethics. And one of the first things you want to talk about is being sure of your shot. You don't want the animal to get wounded and suffer because you respect it and you respect its place in the world. So it's very important that you have a clean shot so that the animal doesn't suffer. You also want to teach respect for game laws and that there's a reason why we don't take a doe in the springtime, or we don't take a young deer that hasn't matured enough to have a chance to reproduce yet, things of that nature. And that process will develop in them the concept of preservation of the species and managing a species, again, as we said earlier, for future generations to enjoy. And finally, hunting will instill in your children some life qualities that would do all of them well in the future. The first one of these is patience. Anybody who's ever been hunting once knows that you have to have a lot of patience. Same thing with fishing. If you're not patient, you're not going to be successful. And that translates to real life as well. Another benefit that they will gain that will do them well in their life is a sense of achievement. So when you've taken this child and you've taught them how to hunt, you've taught them how to track, scout an area, they found the sign, they decided where to set the stand, they engaged in the hunt, and then they took the animal, the sense of achievement that comes from that will do wonders for instilling a sense of self-confidence and self-worth. And again, as all of us know, that can be greatly valuable as an adult in this society. And finally, by teaching them ethics, teaching them morals, and giving them the sense of self-worth and a sense of patience, you're giving your children the tools that they need to build a solid foundation for their character. And if they continue in this process as they mature and become adults, they will have the character of a solid citizen, one that cares about the environment, cares about maintaining a healthy animal population, and wants to pass those tools on to their children. And that is how hunting can make better citizens for the future. So let's review a little bit, because I've talked about a lot of things. Hunting, teaching your children how to hunt will remove them away from the TV and the digital influence, give you quality time with them outdoors, fresh air and exercise, and teach them about the animal's place in the world and their place in the world. They will also learn valuable lessons about life and death, predator and prey, and a respect for the environment and the animal's place in it. By reinforcing ethical hunting practices such as being sure of their shot, respecting game laws, and managing the species for the future, they will become better citizens down the road because they will have developed patience, a sense of self-worth, and that in turn will give them the character, as I said earlier, that will allow them to be better citizens as they grow up.